At first, it was you actually got a real person living domestically. Then you got this automated, like hit 0 100 times to get the operator. Then it was offshored to somebody who barely spoke your language. None of those things are necessarily good. And now you're not talking to a human, but you're getting the exact answers you need 24/7 without having to wait on hold. And I would argue that's better for the end user. But that is going to eliminate all of those jobs of the people that were in those customer service roles.
This show is dedicated to helping you strengthen your family tree and live financially free. Welcome to the Marriage, Kids, and Money podcast, everybody. This is Andy Hill, and today we're talking about the impact of AI on our future generation. To help us explore this topic in more depth, I've invited Matt Britton on the show today. Matt is a leading AI and consumer trend expert advising Fortune 500 brands on the impact of millennials and Gen Z for over 2 decades. Matt's newest book, Generation AI, Why Generation Alpha and AI Will Change Everything, is out now. When Matt isn't unveiling enlightening consumer trends, he enjoys spending time with his wife and kids in New York. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for carrying on this very important conversation, as AI seems to be one of those things where it's like, I'm so excited about it, and I'm also extremely frightened of it. So I'm glad you're there to calm us down from those extreme
we're living
opposites.
in crazy times for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about it. Let's break it down from the beginning. The acronym AI, it's been floating around for a while now. Can you help us define it as it stands today?
Well, artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, but just like the internet was around for a long time until AOL came out and got the masses onto the internet, ChatGPT did the same with artificial intelligence. So what it means in a technical world is sort of irrelevant to this podcast. It's really what it means to everyone listening. And what AI means to everyone listening is, for the first time ever, we can now interact with technology the same way we do humans. We can talk to an AI chatbot in any language in the way that we intend to communicate with other people, and it will understand you. And based upon that understanding, can do a variety of different things. It can generate different outputs, whether it be audio or text or video or imagery, or it can create completely new ideas. It can initiate the advancement of new software that you're trying to figure out. It can even write software for you. So we have entered an entirely new realm in terms of technology's ability to enhance humanity. And with that comes incredible opportunity and dreams, but it also comes a lot of fear and despair. And that's kind of been the case with every new technological advancement, except I believe this one's going to be unlike nothing else we've seen.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I keep thinking of when the ATM came out, there was big hubbub of all the tellers are going to lose their jobs,
Yeah.
But hey, it's widely adopted today.
And people have demonized new technologies throughout history, and some of those kind of prophecies have actually proven correct in terms of its damage, but we are kind of pre-programmed to advance and to be progressive and to advance technology and embrace it. And whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's good for humanity or not, we're not going backwards. It's here to stay.
Well, let's talk about that embracing today. Are people widely adopting AI right now, the majority of people, or is it still feeling like a passing trend for some people, like a fad?
I think anybody would have an incredibly hard time convincing anyone who knows where AI is at that it's a passing fad. It would almost be like saying electricity is a passing fad at this point, in my opinion, because I think it's so very critical to the way that we're going to be able to evolve in the future. People are adopting it. ChatGPT just announced, for example, there's 700 million monthly active users on its platform. That's a big number, right? And this is a tool that's only came out a couple of years ago. So it's going to be in the billions of users, much like Facebook and Google and some of these other incredible tools are. However, many people who use ChatGPT just use it as a basic call and response tool. Tell me about the show that's on tonight. Give me a recipe for dinner for my kids. They don't really fully understand what AI is capable of and how it's going to evolve business and culture and society. And there are some like myself who are living on the edge because the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And I see what's going to unfold, but it just hasn't unfolded yet. And it's going to take time. Bill Gates famously said, we overestimate the change that's going to happen in 1 to 2 years, and we underestimate the change that's going to happen in 10. And I think that's certainly the case here.
Well, based on this conversation, I'd like to take it in three different chunks if you're okay with it. We have employees that are listening to the show. We have solopreneurs, people who have gone on their own to start their own business as a one person show. And then we have a lot of parents too. So if we could break down the conversation about how AI is going to change things in those three areas, I think that could be helpful for a lot of people who are listening. So let's start with the employee side of things. Should employees be concerned that AI is actually going to take their jobs? And if so, what kind of embracing do they need to do?
The answer to that question lies in what you do when you come into work every day. If you come into work every day and wait to be told what to do by your supervisor or your boss, you should be concerned because increasingly it's going to become easy for your boss or your boss's boss, who could eliminate your boss as well, to actually tell AI to do those deterministic tasks. So if your job is come in and enter this data or analyze this data or call this person or move this file from one place to the next, like remember the movie Office Space, like fill out your TPS reports, like that, those tasks are going to be eliminated. And that's why companies like Microsoft and Meta have already been able to eliminate tens of thousands of jobs, because they are on the bleeding edge of what AI can do. And it's only a matter of time before that knowledge and capability spread to the rest of corporate America and one day Main Street, right? But on the flip side, if you're somebody who comes to work every day and doesn't wait to be told what to do, but actually takes initiative and drives change and knows how to create relationships and knows how to be creative and problem solve, your value is going to be 10x. So I think if you're a star in the workforce, you have an unlimited potential, especially if you've embraced AI. But if you are just a cog in the machine, so to speak, well, you're going to be replaced by the machine. And I think it's a dichotomy that's going to start unfolding.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like a lot of jobs, obviously, depending on what type of industry you're in. Some of them are just, hey, tell me what to do. I'll get it done. I'll clock out at
Right.
5 and I'm done. Those are the ones you're saying are in danger.
Yeah. And those people have generally taken advantage of the knowledge economy, where if you had knowledge of doing something, and it's not just blue collar jobs, it could be the knowledge of I do people's taxes, and that's all I do every day, right? I read X-rays and point out abnormalities. I write contracts, but they're basically cookie cutter, and I've been doing the same thing for the last 20 years. Those people have been paid very well because they've been able to essentially memorize and regurgitate knowledge in different form factors to the end user. The knowledge economy is coming to an end because the ability to command knowledge and contextualize it for individual situations is exactly what AI is built for. So the issue is that what are kids taught in school? They're taught to memorize and regurgitate and do well on tests. And it's that very skill set that's going to become less and less desirable and valuable in tomorrow's world.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get to the kid side of thing very soon. I'd like to continue on this path of talking about employees, and now maybe they're seeing their situation as, oh wow, actually I do have quite a bit of repetitive tasks in my day and I am a knowledge worker. Is this a moment in time to learn more about AI and then
Absolutely.
embrace it and change my career for the better? Talk to an employee who's in that situation that listened
Yeah,
to
and
what you
many
just
are in
said.
this situation,
Yeah.
and I speak all around the world about this very topic.
Yeah.
And the reality is that you'll read all these articles and you'll hear these thought leaders on stage saying, you have to dive into AI. But the reality is when they get into their office, they can't download any tool they want. They can't upload their customers' data because there's legal and IT and data privacy concerns. So you're really at the behest of your management team, who themselves don't really know how to navigate this. So how do you take matters into your own hands? You actually deploy AI for yourself personally. So, for example, I spent a long time when I was first getting to understand the powers of AI to build my own personal health bot, or I took 20 years of personal health information, MRIs, X-rays, blood test information, and fed them to my own model with the core purpose of keeping me alive. As you mentioned at the onset, I have children. I actually have 4 kids, 2 very young kids, and I just turned 50, and I want to stay alive and see them grow. And I can't think of a more important use of this great technology for me personally. So I set out on that journey. And through the process of understanding what a solution would ultimately look like, gathering the data, understand how AI leverages data, the type of outputs I need, to the moment when I first tested it with my first question, which was, if I'm going to die in 5 years, what's the most likely cause? It through that process of coming up with the idea to seeing it pay off for me, I was able to really see its power. of building something personally for you. And that's the advancement of using AI just from like a call and response tool to actually really building products. Anybody can go through that journey, whether you want to build a personal finance bot that can help you make decisions and help you access your investments and trusts and estates, whether you're building a family bot that can help you organize your kids' calendars and schedules, or whether you're building something for your health. You can actually build that on your own without being encumbered by the workplace. And then you will gain the skill sets. So when your workplace finally catches up, you're going to be able to separate from the pack. So I honestly think that's the path that people should really dive into to truly future-proof themselves. So I know you're kind of bifurcating this discussion between parenting and the workforce and personal life. We're all one person and it all blends together. And I think that's where we have to really dive in. It's not just a work tool, it's a life tool.
I think that's a great way to say it, and I think the motivation for people to dive into it is probably we're all self-serving, you know. So I'd be like, hey, you're going to want to dive into this stuff to improve your life, as opposed to saying, hey, what can I do to make my employer more profitable?
But you'll be able to do both.
But you'll be able to do both. Exactly. Yes. So by doing that, and
it's not just make your employer more profitable. It's so you make sure you keep your job. And
exactly.
Actually, that's the least of it. You not only will you keep your job, but you could be 10xing your income at your work because you're going to be so very valuable. I can tell you, as somebody who employs 300 people at a software company, there are people now at all levels of the organization that with reckless abandon I'm promoting because I'm seeing they're diving in. And there's other people that have the best resume you can think of that just aren't embracing the future. And I'm starting to question, well, should they be part of our future?
Absolutely. I mean, and that brings up the solopreneur side of things, really, because once you start diving into some of these technologies and seeing how you can improve your life, that can translate into a really quick business idea outside of your workplace. Is that right?
100%. I mean, I raised over $100 million for my software company so I can build software, which was predicated on hiring engineers and all these people who had all this knowledge to allow me to do it. But if I were creating a software company today, I would not do that. I wouldn't give up control. I wouldn't raise all this money because while you can't develop software quite like humans can yet, you're going to be able to in the next year or two. And that's only one use case of how AI can replace the need for major investment. You can also use AI to help you with marketing. It can help you analyze data. It can help you write. It can help you build a website. All these things that in the past you would have needed to hire outside resources or employees for, all of a sudden you can move very fast and seize opportunities. So I myself have created 3 or 4 businesses on the side, some of which are starting to get a lot of traction because it's so easy to do. And, I have the skill sets. I understand I'm blessed with the skill sets of being creative, being somewhat technologically literate, and being highly motivated. People need to develop those skill sets if they don't have them, because, those are the skill sets that are most needed. And if you spent your entire career, again, just following orders, it could be hard to do to upskill in that capacity, but that's what's really needed to be able to future-proof yourself right now.
Yeah, you talked about some of the businesses you've started and how you've grown your situation. Was there a pivotal moment in your journey where you said, hey, I'm going to go all in on AI, or has AI been a part of your journey for a really long time and you've been adopting it for a long time?
So I think my journey is probably not going to be like most of the listeners in that my entire career has been about helping brands navigate new technologies. So from the onset of the internet itself, my first agency, to social media and mobile with Gen Z, and now AI for Gen Alpha. I mean, so it's kind of been always my focus. But that being said, despite that, my first inclination when AI first started to take off was to give it to my engineers. And they really weren't able to figure it out. And I kind of had taken that technical role and decided, well, that's not for me. I'm the CEO. We have an engineering team of 80 people. They should figure it out. But AI is different than past technologies because it's as much about understanding the problem that you need to solve than it is about how to solve the problem. In the past, you couldn't build a website unless you knew how to solve the problem, AI code a website. But now it's arguably more important to know when you should build a website and what it's for than actually knowing how to build it. And so that's a completely different skill set, which once I start to realize that, I kind of realized for me personally, this is my calling. It's like the perfect technology, the perfect time for me. And I just can't get enough hours in the day. I have so many ideas that I want to execute on. My hardest challenge right now personally is focus. But once you open up your eyes to what this technology can accomplish, you start to see the world differently and you start to see your opportunities differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talk to the solo business owners or the people who are considering jumping out and doing their own thing about this time frame in general, because you're talking about this as an opportunity for
Yes.
people maybe 5 years ago where you would have had to spend $100,000 for all of the resources and equipment to get it done. Today, can you do that for a fraction of the cost with
Yes,
AI?
and also it's a race. So I mean, we there's an arbitrage opportunity right now where you can command knowledge that 99% of the public won't. And that will allow you to get ahead, whether you're competing with other people in business or you're competing against your colleague for that next promotion, right? Or you just want to have more free time to spend with your family and you want to spend less time doing mundane tasks, or you realize that you want to stay alive, right? There's so many, whatever those things are, now's the time to dive in, because we're never going to see an opportunity zone like this again in our lifetimes with this completely new realm of technology. The last time we saw this was when the internet itself was built. And think about it, if you just bought every domain name you could in the year 1999, what that would have done for your career, right? It's kind of, that's where we are right now. We're very much in the first inning, but we're going to be in the second and third inning pretty quickly because this thing is really steamrolling. And now you're starting to see it become, front page news for local newspapers and TV stations, which shows you it's being brought to mainstream America and around the world in a really rapid pace. All the more reason that today is the time to dive in.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk to the parents out there that are excited about this, but then are also thinking about their kids and the future. How do we prepare our children for an AI
Yeah.
world?
So I wrote about this extensively in my book because you have a generation right now, Generation Alpha, which is age 0 to 15, who are going to be known as the AI generation. Gen Z, the generation that preceded them, were I'm sorry, Gen Alpha would be known as the artificial intelligence
Mhm.
generation. Gen Z, the generation that preceded them, was the iPhone generation. And before that, you had millennials, which were known as the digital natives, the first generation to grow up with the internet in the household. I was not none of those generations. I was Gen X. So I didn't even grow up with the internet in the household. And as you've seen the progression from no internet to internet, from internet to iPhone/social media, and now iPhone/media to AI, what you are going to see is a progression of our species, right? Our brains are hardwired differently now, especially if you were born with an iPhone as your appendage to your body or seeing your parents grow up with one, than if you didn't. And AI is going to only accelerate that further. You're going to have a generation of consumers who only know a world with AI, only know a world where you can interact with technology the same way you do other people. And for them, it's going to be not a foreign idea to develop a close relationship with an AI chatbot. To the parents in the household, it's going to be the weirdest, strangest thing that they've ever seen. But for this young generation, it's just what living in this world in 2025 or 2030 is going to look like. So all the more reason that parents need to understand that what parents can't do is say you cannot use AI, because that's the worst thing for your kids' future. But at the same time, you want them to have real relationships with real people, not relationships with AI chatbots. So it's going to become the ultimate balancing act. But you're not going to be able to kind of walk that tightrope if you don't really understand AI. So if you don't want to understand AI for your work or you don't believe it, that's fine. But it's going to be a big part of your children's lives. And for them, you really need to understand how it's going to evolve.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about schools and the
Yes,
school system. You talked about some businesses maybe being older and not adopting this. I mean, the traditional school system can be pretty old and rigid
that's
as
for sure.
well. I'm very fearful as a parent of them just sort of having that idea of like no AI because there can be cheating, and then it's all stopped right
Yes.
there. What is your opinion on AI
Well,
in
there's a
schools?
lot there. I think people ask me often what AI is going to do for wealth disparity. And I think AI, for better or worse, and in this case for worse, is going to create far more wealth disparity for a lot of reasons. Not only are the rich going to get richer, we're already seeing like these companies like Meta and Google and Apple and Amazon really distance from the pack and NVIDIA because they are adopting AI from every other company. The people that are going to be part of this new AI revolution are also going to, become the 0.001%. And I think why I think is going to continue in the future is what I'm experiencing is like private schools are adopting AI a lot more quickly than public schools. So the kids with means are going to have that AI training earlier in their life, and public schools which aren't going to move as quickly. Public institutions like colleges and universities, same thing. I spoke in front of 700 college university professors last year, who were many of which, especially the ones that are at public institutions, using tech books that were written long before ChatGPT even existed. So that parents are going to really have to lean in here, because I think the schools, it's going to take a very long time before they change their entire, especially public schools, their entire learning curriculum. Again, much of which is predicated on this notion of memorization and regurgitation. And it's the coloring inside the lines, to create an analogy for school and childhood, is kind of the thing that you don't want to teach kids to do, because that's what AI can do perfectly, is color inside the lines. And if you look at just a kind of macroeconomic standpoint, right? The American economy has surpassed the Chinese economy because of one word: innovation. So yes, China can make things far more inexpensively, right? And they can basically have people that come into work and do the same thing every day and work incredibly long hours. But where would our country be without Apple and Google and Meta and these incredible companies? And those companies have won because of innovation. But innovation does not come from coloring inside the lines. And so much of how kids are educated is to do just that. And now more than ever, it's about coloring outside the lines. That's where the critical thinking and creativity live, which are going to be skill sets that are going to be so very critical on a globally competitive basis for these young leaders, future leaders, to be able to differentiate from the pack.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk to the parents out there that are saving up $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to send their kids to
More than that, it's
traditional
already
college.
90. Some schools are already $90,000 a year. I can tell you firsthand.
Yes, for college.
Yeah.
So, what about the traditional college route? Does this even make sense anymore, based on where maybe parents who have Gen Alpha kids?
Yeah. I mean, today the reality is that if your parents can afford it and you don't have to go into debt, then you should go to college, because the network that you're going to build and the experiences that you're going to gain, I believe, are kind of unmatched for kids that are aged 18 to 21. However, if you have to get into debt, and basically you have to, the second you graduate, have to spend time digging out of that debt, and doing so, you're going to have to chase things that you don't want to do, then why did you even go to college to begin with? And those 4 years will go by fast, but then what about the next 50 years? Like, what are you going to be doing? So I think that's the reality. But putting that aside, I do question the value of the actual education in the schools, given everything we've just said, that, a lot of the textbooks were written before AI, that knowledge is truly commoditized right now. And I can actually ask ChatGPT to spend the next 3 months with me, teaching me a Harvard level economics course, and to basically mimic the behavior of the best economics professor at Harvard. And if I really focus and I ask it to give me coursework and things to read, and I do all of it, I can learn the same exact information than I would being at their beautiful campus in Cambridge. And so if you're doing it for the education, especially if you need to get into debt, I would really rethink that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's networking, socialization, being able to stick to things and focus. I mean, it's life training, as opposed to the knowledge and the education specifically itself. I would completely agree with you, especially at that price point. Let's talk about the jobs that Gen Alpha might not even be around for Gen Alpha when they get there. What, 2030, 2032? My son will be 2032.
I mean, a stat just came out that 80% of the new jobs that come into the workforce by 2030 don't even exist today. So there are going to be many new jobs, because what's going to happen is we're going to go through a pretty rough cycle, I think, starting in the back half of this year, this fall of 2025, and into 2026, where I think you're going to see a lot of job loss. I think companies are going to first realize, wow, we don't need all these people. We can bring more to the bottom line. And then as they understand that AI is not just an automator, but it's an accelerator of growth, you're going to find these businesses that find themselves way more profitable because they've cut so many costs, that they're going to be pursuing all these new opportunities. And then that's going to basically reinvigorate life, just like, how trees grow after a wildfire in a forest, right? You're going to start to see all these new patches blooming. And those new patches are going to breed new jobs and new opportunities. What they are, frankly, it's hard to say at this point, because AI is evolving. It's doubling its power and potency every 7 months. But there are going to be new jobs. But to me, I think it's less about the new jobs and more about what are the skill sets those jobs are going to require. because we can't predict what those jobs are, but we can predict what is it that makes us uniquely human that's still going to be in demand no matter where AI goes. Because someone still has to wake up every day and make the decision like, how are we going to unlock the power of AI? Like, what are the opportunities to serve humanity and serve our business and innovate? And I think the people who are adept at that are going to really be the people who are going to take advantage of this new realm in society that we're all going to experience.
Yeah, and you alluded to it earlier too. What we want to train up our kids with, yes, the knowledge of AI and the ability to utilize it in a good capacity, but also remain human and continue to use those human instincts where you connect with real people. And maybe that's where we're translating to the jobs that will never be eliminated. What is that? Sales, account management, being able to communicate uh, in a non-chatbot kind of way that people
Right.
will always want as humans, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some sales jobs that probably will be eliminated because some sales jobs are predicated on just sending out, 500 emails a day. And those are jobs that are going to be gone. But the jobs that rely on building real human relationships and understanding, the relationship driven jobs, I think will stay. But I think that the automation jobs that serve those relationship jobs, probably not so much. Customer service, I no longer have to talk to somebody to change my flight on Delta. At first, it was you actually got a real person living domestically. Then you got this automated, like hit zero 100 times to get the operator. Then it was offshored to somebody who barely spoke your language. None of those things are necessarily good. And now you're not talking to a human, but you're getting the exact answers you need 24/7 without having to wait on hold. And I would argue that's better for the end user. But that is going to eliminate all of those jobs of the people that were in those customer service roles.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big change. Now there's somebody listening that has listened to this conversation and they feel like, "Whoa, man, I am behind the ball. I have
And
not
most
jumped
are.
on most stars." So don't worry everybody if that's you. What's one small step they could take after this interview to feel like they could catch up
Yeah.
and start to be on this wave with us?
So what I would say is identify the biggest opportunity or problem you want to solve personally, right? Maybe you want to take care of, an aging parent and they don't know how to operate things in the house, right? Maybe you want to find ways to better engage with your kids and come up with more creative activities or have better discussions at dinner time, right? Or you want to lose weight. Go on a ChatGPT and basically say, I want to learn about AI and I want to build a tool, my own tool that can help me solve this problem. I am not technical, and I want you to give me step-by-step instructions on how to build this. Do not give me step 2 until I tell you step 1 is done. And if you don't give up, you'll be at step 53 and you'll look back and say, I can't believe I have this working prototype of something that can actually help me do something. And through every step, you learn a little bit more about what AI can do. Oh, wait, it could do this. Well, it could also do that. And you'll look back and say, it's not even about the destination, it's about the journey of getting there. And as you go through those steps along the journey, that's how you'll teach yourself what's capable. And then again, you can extend those skill sets to the workforce and in so many different ways.
And extend them to your children as well.
That's right.
Absolutely. Matt, your book, Generation AI, is out now. Tell people about it and where they can get it.
Yeah, so Generation AI is about so many of the things that we discussed today. It's about how AI is going to impact, our futures in every corner of culture and society, from the workforce and your career trajectory to education, to parenting, and to other areas like the future of entertainment, how we're going to consume movies and content, and how we're going to buy things, and how it's going to impact the way that we plan travel, and so many different things that we do on an everyday basis that are important to us. So I really tried to take a 30,000 foot view of like, this is an incredible technology. What does it mean for all of us? And of course, what you can do about it, and some of which we've talked about today.
Excellent. Well, we'll put links to the book in our show notes and in the description below this YouTube video. Everybody, thank you, Matt, so much for your time today and preparing us for the future.
Thanks for a great chat.